So, our resident Spurs expert / fan is on the line this morning. John Duggan, good morning to you. It feels just like Rush all over again. How are you?
Ger and Eoin, how are you doing?
This is about as happy as you can be as a Spurs fan, with the one caveat that every little bit of extra success Pochettino brings you this year makes it more and more likely that he'll be the Man United manager next year.
Well, I don't know about that. I'm more worried at the moment, lads, about Spurs always letting you down in the end, which is always what has happened with Tottenham over the last 32 years of following them. I'm breathing rainbows at the moment. I put up on Twitter last night that I'm breathing rainbows, and it's very hard not to breathe rainbows after walking up to my local tavern, drinking a sparkling water and watching that last night. Jan Vertonghen, we've already seen the Superman memes. What a performance to beat the Bundesliga leaders, to win. I think they've won now 4 games in a row with late goals. And it's just fantastic. Spurs haven't had a draw all season, which is bizarre. And there's this phrase, Spursy, which is back to what I just said, that they'll always let you down, they'll always crumble, they'll always flake. But Spurs have not been doing that recently. And without 2 of their best players, Harry Kane and Dele Alli, it's just a magical time. And I was at the Champions League last 16 game in 2011, the AC Milan game. I couldn't believe that I heard the music. It was just that hearing the music was probably the best thing I've ever experienced as a Spurs fan. Hearing the Champions League music in 2011, we beat AC Milan over 2 legs. It was a goalless draw at White Hart Lane that night. Went to play Real Madrid in the quarterfinals, but we never had a chance. We reached the end of our road under Harry Redknapp that season in the competition, the Champions League. But I actually think, folks, and it's not rose or lily white coloured spectacles, I actually think Tottenham have a better chance of winning the Champions League than they do the Premier League, because on their day, Tottenham Hotspur can beat anybody. And the physicality they showed last night reminded me of when they bullied Pep Guardiola's Manchester City a couple of years ago. On their day, they could beat anybody. And surely the players like Son, Llorente, that come into the team are now starring and scoring goals, must have huge confidence. So it's great for the squad.
Yeah, the other thing is that Spurs squad isn't that big. They didn't buy anybody in the summer. That was the narrative that we've been hearing for such a long period of time. And yet, as you mentioned, they're missing their 2 world-class players, or certainly 2 of their world-class players. I mean, it's possible that there's a couple of others now beginning to leach into that category. But notwithstanding that, they were able to keep Trippier and Rose on the bench and not use them last night. Like, there is genuine strength and depth there. Wanyama was a midfielder that was highly coveted 18 months ago for his form at Spurs. Spurs have actually managed to upgrade, and he's not a bad sub to have on the bench. Llorente's coming off the bench, and again, slightly underrated, I suspect, because of the fact that he's had a relatively slow introduction to English football, but he's had a brilliant career. And then also Lamela is somebody who is finally beginning to show in fits and starts why they spent all that money so long ago on him. So there is some strength and depth and cohesion to the squad when there's as few injuries as they have at the moment.
And I think that's back to what you're saying about Pochettino being so an attractive proposition. Even though he hasn't won a trophy at Tottenham, he's such an attractive proposition for Manchester United because he improves players. Like Harry Winks, I thought was tidy. Sissoko, I thought was clumsy. But Sissoko, the way he's been playing recently, he's like a rugby player. He's like a battering ram. And when you've got a player like Christian Eriksen, who is a world-class player, who I think probably is the best player in the Tottenham team, putting balls on a plate for people, like Llorente, who's a good header of the ball, you can just see the improvement that's been made through the Tottenham team. I don't think Trippier's played well that recently, and he's on the bench, and there you go. So I think Pochettino has got everybody singing off the same hymn sheet. I actually think that, in a way, if you're signing players for big money in January, is that going to disrupt the cohesion of the squad? And maybe Pochettino, through the fact that he's improved players, and that Lucas Moura, for example, has come back almost like a new signing, suggests to me that they're very, very stable, very unified. And they always get seen like a unified bunch. And I think that is reflected in the character they've shown to win at Fulham, Harry Winks' late goal, to beat Watford coming from behind, late goal against Newcastle. Eriksen's chipped in with a couple of late goals this season. And they're able to find another gear. And that they're doing it without their best players is pretty impressive. And Tottenham tend to go on runs during the season. They might, like when they nearly caught Leicester for the title, they went on a run and then they faltered. I suppose history will always tell us that we're waiting for Tottenham to falter. They got to go to Manchester City. They got to go to Liverpool. They got to play Chelsea. They got to play Arsenal in the league. That's why I think the Champions League all you got to do is win now. Well, you don't need to even win them all. You got to get through 3 ties now. The quarterfinals, I have to think they're probably into the quarterfinals, semis, and final. They have a better chance because I think City and Liverpool will ding-dong it out between them for the Premier League title. But I can see them being at the top 4. I don't think the stadium thing is going to happen this season. But, that's not necessarily a bad thing. And it wouldn't be great to be bringing the Champions League trophy to the new Wirehart Lane. We can only dream, guys. I suppose we're on a high this morning. And with Tottenham coming soon, it's a good omen.
Do you think that Spurs can realistically hold on to Maurizio Pochettino of Manchester United or Real Madrid come calling?
It just depends. Like, Daniel Levy will have to open the purse strings. Like, I think it's just a very exciting time to be a Spurs fan. Of course, the stadium is costing a lot of money, but it just depends on how much money is available for him. Like, London is an attractive place for any club. I think a lot of players are happy there, but this comes down to wage bill. It comes down to money for transfers, and Tottenham have been able to straddle it. They've been able to get away with it to date, but there comes a time when players are just offered just too much money that they'll eventually go, and then you also need to spend in the market to compete. He's done a brilliant job of improving players. When Harry Kane was on loan, it was at Leicester at one stage. So I think we're in the sweet spot at the moment, but I don't think they can go on forever. And I think if United offer Pochettino, huge money, Madrid the same. But I would think about those 2 clubs. Those clubs don't look to me to be the most stable clubs as clubs. I think Tottenham is a very well-run club. It's got a good academy. You've got good young players coming through. You've got a great new stadium to go into. I'm not so sure that Real Madrid, I think, is a poison chalice for anybody. You win 3 Champions Leagues, it's never good enough. And we saw with Lopetegui how it can damage somebody's career if you're not ready for it or if things don't go well. So it's never good enough for Real Madrid. And for Manchester United, I would question whether the structures are in place at the club and the way the club is being run for Pochettino to go in there and turn things around quickly. Because I think Manchester United is going to take a lot of working and a lot of years for somebody to work on. And hasn't Pochettino put in those years at Tottenham? So why would he change? Why would he move? So I think it's a difficult decision for him. I also think it's a little bit disrespectful to Tottenham, because Tottenham are a different club now. They're not the club that they were. It's a little bit disrespectful to go, oh, well, he'll just sign for Manchester United as a new manager. Of course, United are one of the biggest clubs in the world globally, but Tottenham are a growing club and they're going to be in the Champions League, no question, next season. Manchester United might not be. So I think there's a little bit of a legacy thing with the way people think about Liverpool or Man United, that they've got an entitlement to get anybody they want. They do. But the club has not been run in a very good manner. The fact that the appointments they've made with Moyes, with Van Gaal, Mourinho didn't work out, Solskjaer got exposed the other night. And I just think, the grass is not always greener on the other side. And Mauricio Pochettino's got a big decision to make, but I think his decision will be really determined by what Daniel Levy as chairman does and what Joe Lewis, the real owner of the club, out in the Caribbean, decides regarding the purse strings of the club.
All right, John, good stuff. Thanks very much for joining us.
See you, lads.